Imagine waking up today, June 4th, 2026, and the largest planet in our solar system is simply gone. Without Jupiter's massive gravity to act as our cosmic shield, millions of deadly asteroids are being redirected straight toward Earth. The protective vacuum cleaner of our neighborhood has vanished, and the countdown to chaos has officially begun. It starts as a ripple in the fabric of space-time itself. On a humid Tuesday afternoon in the United States, most people are focused on the mundane. Maybe you're grabbing a lukewarm coffee at a Dunkin' in Boston. Or you're stuck in that soul-crushing crawl on the I-95 heading into DC. Your phone vibrates with a news alert, but it's not about politics or the economy. It's a notification from a frantic live stream at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. Astronomers are reporting a gravitational anomaly. Jupiter, the king of planets, the gas giant that has occupied its throne for 4.5 billion years, has vanished. In the first 43 minutes, nobody on Earth actually knows it's gone. Gravity, like light, travels at a finite speed. We are still being held in a phantom grip, following an orbit dictated by a ghost. But at the 44-minute mark, the invisible leash snaps. The Earth doesn't fly off into the dark. The sun still holds us, but the subtle, stabilizing pull that has kept our orbit nearly circular for eons is suddenly replaced by a terrifying, hollow silence in the sky. To understand why this is a death sentence, you have to realize that Jupiter is not just a pretty marble in a telescope. It is the solar system's bouncer. For billions of years, its massive gravitational well, 318 times the mass of Earth, has acted as a cosmic magnet. It catches long-period comets screaming in from the Oort cloud and flings them out into interstellar space. It keeps the millions of jagged rocks in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter in a state of precarious but predictable suspension. Without Jupiter, that suspension is over. The vacuum cleaner is off, and the dust is about to settle right on our doorstep. Within the first 48 hours, the scientific community in the US would go into a state of total, unadulterated panic. We're talking about emergency briefings at the White House, the FAA grounding all transcontinental flights because of unpredictable atmospheric shifts, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena becoming the most important building on the planet. The initial fear isn't even an asteroid, it's the math. The solar system is a finely tuned clock. When you remove the biggest gear in that clock, the other gears start to wobble. Mars, our closest neighbor, is the first to feel it. Without Jupiter's pull, Mars's orbit begins to shift, its eccentricity increasing. This isn't something you'd feel while walking your dog in a suburban cul-de-sac in Ohio, but the supercomputers at NASA would see it instantly. The red planet is moving closer to us. Saturn, the second largest anchor, begins to drift as well, tugging on the outer planets. The delicate resonance that keeps the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, from crashing into each other, or the sun has been permanently broken. But the real, immediate threat is much smaller and much faster. The asteroid belt is home to over 1 million rocks larger than half a mile wide. For billions of years, Jupiter has used its gravity to herd these rocks, keeping them in stable gaps called Kirkwood gaps. The moment Jupiter vanishes, those gaps disappear. It's like a massive dam bursting. These millions of rocks, no longer pinned down by the gas giant, begin to interact with each other. They collide, they ricochet, and they are nudged by the gravity of the sun and their remaining planets. Suddenly, the inner solar system becomes a cosmic shooting gallery. In the American psyche, we've always viewed space as this silent, distant void. We watch movies about asteroid impacts, but they always feel like a what-if for another century. But by July of 2026, the what-if becomes a when. The Minor, Planet Center in Massachusetts, would be flooded with data, showing thousands of previously stable asteroids now on. Earth-crossing trajectories. The psychological impact on the American public would be a slow motion. Collapse. Imagine the evening news cycles. There are no more weather reports because the atmosphere is beginning to react to subtle changes in Earth's orbital tilt. Instead, every major network, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, has a permanent impact countdown ticker on the bottom of the screen. We would see the return of the Great Dread. It's the feeling our ancestors had when they looked at an eclipse and thought the gods were angry. But this time, the math proves the gods are gone. People would start fleeing the cities not because of a specific threat, but because of an existential need to be somewhere else. The I-405 in LA or the I-10 in Texas would become permanent parking lots of abandoned SUVs and moving vans. The Federal Reserve would struggle to keep the dollar from evaporating as investors realize that long-term growth doesn't mean much when the planet is entering a debris field. By the second year without Jupiter, the sky itself begins to change. If you were to stand in the middle of a dark field in Montana, looking up at the Milky Way, you'd notice something terrifying. The sky is getting busier. You'd see more streaks of light, not the beautiful, fleeting wishing stars of our childhood, but slow, bright, ominous flares. These are the vanguard, the smaller rocks, the city killers, hitting the upper atmosphere. In a world without Jupiter, the rate of asteroid impacts on Earth is estimated to increase by a factor of 1,000. We are moving from an impact event every few million years to an impact event every few decades, or even every few years. This is where the human story takes a dark, pragmatic turn. The United States, along with the rest of the world, would have to undergo a radical, forced evolution of its infrastructure. We would become a hardened civilization. Think about the American landscape. For 2 centuries, we've built upward, glittering glass towers in New York, sprawling suburban timber homes in the South, massive open-air stadiums. All of that is predicated on the assumption that the sky is safe. In the Jupiter-less era, that assumption is dead. The construction industry would pivot almost overnight. The most valuable commodity in America wouldn't be oil or data. It would be reinforced concrete and deep earth boring equipment. We would see the birth of the Subterranean era. New York wouldn't be a city of skyscrapers. It would be a city of earth scrapers, massive complexes built hundreds of feet below the bedrock of Manhattan. The Great Plains of the Midwest, once the breadbasket of the world, would be dotted with the massive armored domes of vertical farms, protected from the rain of fire from above. The government would have to implement a National Survival Act. The concepts of private property and individual liberty would be strained to the breaking point. If a state-killer asteroid is detected 3 months out and your townie's in the projected impact zone, you don't get a choice. You are relocated. The National Guard would become a permanent evacuation force, moving millions of people across state lines in a desperate game of cosmic musical chairs. But it's not just about the rocks. It's about the Long Wobble. Jupiter's gravity doesn't just protect us from asteroids. It stabilizes the Earth's axial tilt. Currently, the Earth sits at a comfortable 23.5 degrees, giving us predictable seasons and a stable climate. Jupiter acts as a heavy counterweight that prevents the Earth from tipping too far. Without that counterweight, the Earth's tilt would begin to drift wildly over thousands of years. We're talking about a planet where the North Pole might eventually point directly at the Sun. In this future, the United States wouldn't just be worried about asteroids. We'd be dealing with a climate that makes the current global warming crisis look like a spring breeze. We could see the Sahara Desert move to Georgia, or glaciers grinding through the streets of Chicago within a few generations. The American spirit, defined by the frontier, by the open road and the limitless sky, would be forced to retreat. Our culture would become insular, focused on the shield. Imagine a child born in 2040, 15 years after the Vanishing. They have never known a world where you could just go outside without checking the Skywatch app. To them, the sky isn't a place of wonder. It's a source of trauma. They would go to school in bunker complexes under the Appalachian Mountains. Their history books would speak of Jupiter as a lost deity, a giant, swirling protector that we took for granted until it left us to fend for ourselves. The space race would be rebranded as the survival race. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and NASA would no longer be focused on exploration or Mars colonization. That's a pipe dream now. Their entire budget, trillions of dollars, would be funneled into a massive orbital defense network. We would see the launch of thousands of kinetic impactors, autonomous satellites designed to ram into incoming asteroids and nudge them just a few millimeters off course. The sky would be filled with the glow of ion engines and the flashes of nuclear-tipped interceptors. We would be a planet at war with the vacuum of space. But there's a deeper, more philosophical shift that would happen in the American heart. We have always been a people of tomorrow. We believe the future will be better, more expansive, more free. But in a post-Jupiter solar system, tomorrow is a threat. The human psyche would shift toward a permanent state of the eternal present. We would value the minute, the hour, the immediate safety of our loved ones, because the long-term stability of our world is no longer guaranteed by the laws of physics. We would look back at June 3rd, 2026, as the last day of our species' childhood. It was the last day we were looked after. If Jupiter vanished today, the most terrifying realization wouldn't be the physics or the asteroids. It would be the sudden, cold understanding of how fragile our normalcy really is. We live in a garden that was meticulously weeded by a giant we never thanked. We would survive, of course. We are a stubborn, ingenious species. We would dig our tunnels, we would build our shields, and we would learn to live in the shadows of our own fear. We would trade the beauty of the night sky for the safety of the dark. But every once in a while, maybe during a shift change in a subterranean factory in Colorado, someone would look at an old, digitized photo of a giant red-eyed planet. They would see the Great Red Spot, that ancient swirling storm that once stood guard over our world. And they would feel a profound sense of loneliness, because we wouldn't just be missing a planet, we would be missing our protector. The solar system is a lonely place, and without its king, the Earth is just another target in a very long, very dark shooting gallery. The next time you look up at the night sky and see that bright, steady, yellowish light, that's not just a planet. That's the only reason you're alive to see it. Jupiter isn't just a destination for our probes. It is the silent guardian of everything we've ever built. And if it left tomorrow, the silence it would leave behind would be the loudest thing we've ever heard. As you drive home tonight, look at the moon, look at the stars, and think about the invisible hands that hold our world together. We are walking a tightrope across an infinite abyss, and for the first time in human history, we'd realize that the safety net has been cut. Welcome to the new era. Keep your head down. Watch the sky, and pray that Themuth is on our side.